Ever since I remember them, the clumps had meant something to me. I felt their importance long before I knew their history. They eclipsed the impression of all the early landscapes I knew. It was the look of them that told most, whether on sight or in memory. They were the pyramids of my small world. We're at Wittenham Clumps, which is just outside of Dorchester-on-Thames in Oxfordshire. And we came here because it's a place that Paul Nash loved through his life. It was one of the first places he discovered that he could become a landscape artist. Nash had a strong sense of the idea of a place. A place was something more than just being somewhere, but a feeling that you got from a particular location. A place where he could get some kind of sense of something that lay beyond and behind the landscape. Something that was a surrealist idea, that there's sort of two worlds. There's the world, the surface that we see, and the emotions, the history, the psychology of what lies beneath something. It's an amazing spot, isn't it? I mean, it's so beautiful. Paul Nash is now one of the most significant and important British artists of the first half of the 20th century. He was born in London in 1889, and he went to the Slade School of Art, where he was surrounded by some amazing artists: Dora Carrington, Stanley Spencer, Mark Gertler, Richard Nevinson, people who could draw the human form really well. And they spent hour after hour in the Slade life class drawing the human figure. And Nash found he really struggled over that. And he eventually found out that coming outside, out of doors, into nature was a place where he could discover his talents and discover trees particularly, and trees would be very significant through the course of his whole career, the tree as a substitute for the human form. And that is what makes his work of the First World War so significant, when he creates, through his approach to destroyed trees, destroyed landscapes, saying, this is what we have done to the earth. This is what we have done to this beautiful nature that we love. He started as a second lieutenant in the infantry, spent a few months on the front line as an infantry officer. Was injured falling into a trench one night, broke a rib, was sent back home to London. He then returned as an official war artist in 1917. The war artist scheme gave Nash the chance to get as close to the front as he possibly could. And Margaret Nash, Paul's wife, would say in her memoir that Paul was more in danger of being killed as an official war artist than he had been as an infantry officer, that there were machine gun bullets going over his head, there were shells landing, that even he was incorporating mud from shells into his pictures. And it was the aftermath of the Battle of Passchendaele, quagmire, destroyed trees, tens of thousands killed, and Nash wanted to do whatever he could to end the war, to bring the message of what's happening on the Western Front back home to everyone in Britain so they can see what we've got ourselves into. Well, the great painting that Nash produced from the First World War was actually his first oil painting. We are making a new world. There are shattered trees in the foreground. In the background, there's this blood-red sunrise. The picture grabs you, then you see the title of it, we're making a new world. What world are we making? This kind of cynical, pessimistic idea of, what have we done? We started this war with great hopes, and look what we've got. Desolation, destruction, bloodshed. I first saw that painting when I was 16, and it just really struck me. It's about this loss, this great destruction. That was what it was like to be on the Western Front. Nash has captured it. And it's strange, it's weird, it's eerie, it's surreal. It's not like anything we've quite experienced before. And I think the First World War dramatically changed Nash's life, and that it was a different world what came afterwards. Prior to the First World War, Nash hadn't really been involved in the big movements such as Vorticism, but after the war, he experiments. Nash would talk about being British and going modern, this idea of trying to keep his romantic traditions, but also looking at how artists were approaching all subjects in art and trying to change the way we saw the world, the way we painted it. Harbour and Room was his first real surrealist work, which he painted down on the south of France in Toulon, where he had a room in a hotel by the harbour, and a mirror in the room reflected French naval ships. So the ships almost came into the room, and you have the meeting of the outside with the inside, which is so much what surrealism is about, bringing two sort of opposite forces together. When the Second World War came in 1939, it would give him another chance to explore many of the great themes in his work. He was employed by the Air Ministry. He painted crashed aeroplanes just outside of Oxford at the Cowley dump, where wrecked German aircraft were being brought to be recycled into new planes. And he explored this site, and he made a particularly significant painting, Totes Meer, the Dead Sea. This landscape of aeroplanes, tangled metal, and he cast it in moonlight, and it seemed as though it was almost alive, that it was a sea, and it touched him. Here was the dead that these planes had come to destroy and had been destroyed in turn, and yet it's still a landscape. The idea of life and death, decay, dreams, flight, those appear in all of those late works. And he talks of the soul escaping the body and flying up, flying away. It's ironic that he was working for the Air Ministry, but because of his health he couldn't go up in an aeroplane. But flying was a very significant symbol for him. In the First World War he'd seen himself as a propagandist for peace. But in the Second World War, he wanted his art to be used as propaganda in support of this war, whatever little bit he could do to defeat Hitler. He wasn't able to serve, he was too old, he was too ill, but he knew that as an artist he would give everything he could to the cause. He knows almost by the outbreak of the Second World War that he's not going to live long. His wife suggested he was gassed as an official war artist of the First World War. He certainly suffered very badly from asthma, so that the last paintings at Wittenham Clumps are his kind of swan song. It is a man who knows he's approaching his own end. You have the equinox, you have the flowers, the sense that the world is growing old, but then also equally the hope that it will renew, so that Nash knows that these are amongst his last works. But he's signalling off and saying, you know, here is the eternity of life, and though we have death, we have life as well and rebirth. I think Nash would be proud to be remembered as a war artist, but he wouldn't want that to be everything that he was remembered for. He dedicated himself to landscape, and I think he'd see himself as an artist who re-dreamt the English landscape in a modernist manner, and who succeeded in doing that.